Water is wet, sky is blue, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and yes, we have seen countless, and I mean countless, endless lists of the best metal albums from the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, and to a lesser extent the 2000s and the 2010s. And you've even had some of the underrated lists. And you know what? We've had a ton of great albums, a ton of them. And we're in this day and age where unless you're, not looking past the surface, you're not just, accepting what's in front of you, you're assuming that the genre is dead or in bad shape or it's dying. And that couldn't be any more fucking flat out false. Now, here's the difference between way back when to now. Back then, yes, you had some good bands of the time put on in front of you, whether it's the Iron Maidens of the world or Metallica in their early days. Nowadays, you get to go out and find it. You know what? We are so much better for it. So much better for it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I was trained to do this. I was born to do this. I was the type of guy who would look at the liner notes and look at the thanks list to see who all the bands are being thanked in the list. I would look at the magazines, look at the influences, look at those weird small columns, say, oh, hey, who's this? Who's that? Talk to your friends. What do you listen to? I would go out and find this stuff. I do that with comic books. I do that with movies. And obviously, I all started with metal with doing this. And the 2010s had some great albums, and a lot of them, and I mean most of them, I'm talking about like actual metal. A lot of them aren't mainstream albums that are a big deal. You know what? That's fine. I don't give a fuck. We don't need that crowd. We got our own crowd, and that's the way I like it. And you know what? Let's give a quick honorable mention to some great albums for the 2010s. You had, on the power metal side, you had Scars of Armageddon, Would Never Sleep Again, Cloak, To Venomous Depths. They had like the whole tribulation thing going on. You had Backtrack, Bad to My World on the hardcore side of things. Venom, Trance of Death. You had Temple of Void, Death Doom, Lords of Death. What an album. Nucleus, Entity, another band straight out of Chicago like Scars before them. It's crazy how many great albums have come out from this time. But today, I present to you the five, I did a Booker T thing, most underrated albums of the 2010s. And this list is going to be very exceptional because most of these bands, their albums are either fucking hard as ballsack to find or they don't exist no more. A lot of shit's out of print, but you know what? If you're resourceful, you will find this shit.
As I suspected, 32 flavors.
Hot off the Bark at the Poon demo, I see what you did there. Ride with Death is the sum of early releases with 4 additional songs tacked on. This is the closest we have ever, I feel like Chris Jericho here, gotten to a modern version of Motorhead. But unlike their British counterparts, they didn't just sing about rock and roll. They also had lyrics that delve deep into the dark dungeons for inspiration. And despite this dark subject matter at hand, this is most definitely a soundtrack you want to bless when you get your punkers and your metalheads together slamming the foulest of beers and the gnarliest of whiskeys. Now, if I'm going to give my tip of the hat to any preferred tunes on here, those honors would go to Death Ripper alongside the title track itself, Ride with Death. As one captures the pure traditional metal sound, well, another blazes on speedier sound with a black metal touch from Reed's vocals. This album is sadly out of print. I hate it. I hate saying that, but it's the fucking truth. If you want to have a crack at finding it, you're going to have to find it on Discogs, eBay if it pops up. It pops up used. It's very hard to find a copy from the American Hell's Headbangers for a brand new copy if you're one of those guys like me. I swear I thought I had a copy. Either I misplaced it or lost it, or I just somehow never owned it. If that's the case, shame on me. I swear I had it, but regardless, this album fucking rules, and I'm going to keep looking in hopes I find this album in my collection because it really bums me out because I saw these guys at Maryland Death Fest in 2013, and I was just like, holy shit, these guys are kick-ass. Like, they blew my mind, and little did I know, like, that would be it. That was the end. Like, man, it's crazy. Like, yeah, they had like the demo, they had like a little EP, but this is their one full-length release. And like Repulsion before them, you know, they're just one of those bands that was a one and done. But Repulsion are still going, where Speedwolf kind of like, they axed it. It seemed like they were going to get back together for a bit, but it didn't pan out. It sucks, but that's the nature of the beast. So what are you gonna do, man? You know, until then, I hear that blah 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 blah. Reed is singing in Overdose. So I hear that's going on. I hear that's good. I haven't listened to it myself, but I hear that's good. And maybe until the inevitable reunion, because I'm the eternal optimist. We got Speedwolf, we got Overdose. Now let's get the fuck to number 4, shall we?
Welcome to the mortuary. Let's talk the 17. Welcome to the mortuary. What's my self-hatred?
Like the previous band before these guys, Noisem, I had first seen at Maryland Death Fest 2013. Only these guys I had never even heard of prior to the festival. They were the very first band on the very first day. They were right before Paul Bear blew up. These guys were formerly named Necropsy. These dudes changed their name, recruited one Tyler Karn to the band, and before you know it, they were no longer Necropsy, they were Noisem.
I guess like a throwback kind of thing is what we were doing before. Not completely, but I guess that's what it's construed as most of the time. And that's kind of one of the harsh realities that a lot of bands that take influence from older stuff face. Maybe it could be like, it's probably less of a homage than it is just like a progression of
Yeah, I mean,
what
like
used to
we
happen.
didn't like set out for it to be like a throwback. It's just what happened.
And that's when you know the sound of the band was very organic. This wasn't like the Metallica, Anthrax, Mega type of thrash. These were the guys who had a really heavier emphasis on the really more intense side, whether it's like bands like Sodom or Creator. The really darker, faster thrash. I'd say a little bit of Dark Angel and even Sadist is poured into the mix as well. And you really feel there's even like a little slight tinge, like a hint of like a punkish grindcore type of sound. But these guys absolutely punish. These guys were on tours with Carcass, Obituary, the Black Dahlia Murder. They were just killing it left and right. Well, these tours, they had also a great follow-up that didn't really get talked about with Blossoming Decay. I actually thought Blossoming Decay was a kick-ass out. I talked to Tyler back in MDF 2015, really cool guy. It's a real shame that, you know, he wasn't in the band much longer after that, because seriously, like, they were great back-to-back albums of Agony Defined, though. All these songs are just fucking stompers. Split from the Inside Out. Mortuary is probably my favorite jam. It just got that perfect vocal line that just gets you chanting and screaming at mosh pits. Welcome to the mortuary. It's perfect. And it's an album that just like, it just beats you relentlessly. And when I like my thrash, I like to fucking be relentless. I want it to be a brutal assault on all 5 of your senses. And Noisem encapsulated that perfectly. Chile has been red hot when it comes to metal, whether it's Critical Defiance, Suppression, and with Hexen now on the rise, it has been fucking awesome to see what's going down in South America. Ripper was the very first band that had me paying attention to what was going on down south. They're like an early thrash death hybrid that kind of reminds you of like the glory days of like early Sepultura, peak Demolition Hammer. It is so fucking nasty and it really gives you that adrenaline rush. If it doesn't make you like just want to fucking like jump out of your own skin, I don't know what is wrong with your life, because I feel like I just want to like jump out and just like fucking go crazy, like eat a beer can. It's just so damn good. And Ripper is just so like, oh man, it's insane how many thrash bands have come out in the recent waves of Toxic Holocaust, Warbringers, Municipal Wastes of the world. And, you know, a lot of bands have been really good or really not good, but Ripper is a slice above. I would say like 3 slices above
The cream of the crop!
per se. So seriously, get the fuck on this shit, because Ripper functions on one speed when they're all guns blazing, and that is like Charlie Sheen says, go. Also, it's a really big shame that Pablo Cortez had to leave this band after, like, it's Suppression's benefit. So, hey, shout out to Suppression. Did an album review on The Sorrow of Soul Through Flesh a little over a year and a half ago back. But for real, it was a shame that this happened with Ripper. But man, that dude, seriously, this guy is up there with the likes of Alex Webster, the Steve DiGorgios of the world. I said what I fucking said. Get on Experiment of Existence, and unlike Speedwolf and Noisem before these guys, you can find this album on the Unspeakable Acts Records website. Ripper, Experiment of Existence, get on it. Black Breath was first brought to my attention in 2010 with Heavy Breathing. I heard the album a few times, listened to it, I liked what I heard. I can't say I loved it, but I thought it was a really solid first album debut full length from this band that I came back to a few times. But then spring of 2012 happened, and then it's Sentenced to Life. I'm like, holy shit, homie, baby, we are on an eternal honeymoon, and the marriage has been on ever since then, like Donkey and Diddy Kong, might I add.
Yeah.
So let's start out by your name. How did you get it?
That's a tough question.
Well, we had a show coming up, and we didn't have a name, and we decided on Black Breath just because it
Sounded hard.
sounded hard. It's a good song.
Repulsion?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I don't know.
None of us had toothbrushes for a couple months, so
No.
it kind of...
What I really liked about these guys is how different they were at the time compared to a lot of their contemporaries, which I do enjoy. Like, Trap Them was solid. Nails is obviously great. Abandon All Life. It was a great album. Get the fuck over it. But Black Breath was a bit different because they had that Kurt Ballou buzzsaw guitar tone that we come to know and love from the Entombs of the world that they made popular in the early to mid 90s. However, these guys had more of like a hardcore thing going on with the Dismember-like vocal style on top of it all. It was really killer. I mean, this album's a fucking take your pick of who's who of the greatest songs because every song on here, top to bottom, is a fucking banger, whether it's the mid-tempo greatness of The Flame or the fucking speed kills and thrills of the title track itself. It's just all damn fucking good. But if it had to come down to one sweet child of mine, it would be Endless Fucking Corpse. And yes, you could find this album as well pretty accessibly online as well, unless you have a record store somewhere near you that has really solid underground metal. Black Breath, Sentenced to Life. Go fucking buy it. What are you waiting for? Oh yeah, you're waiting for number one. And then you could go buy all these albums. So what the fuck are we getting on with? Let's get on with it.
We're 5 individuals with very different comprehensions in a lot of stuff. But in some things we're completely on the same page, and that's what makes In Solitude. And we don't have, we really don't have an agenda or anything like that when it comes to spirituality, you know. We are very, In Solitude is just a rock band, you know.
If one band should have broken out just as much as Ghost, it should have been In Solitude. And I'm not saying it as a diss on Ghost, even though I not like their later output, because I really do and still do unapologetically enjoy Opus Eponymous Infestissimum. But when I first heard like The World That Flushed the Devil, and then of course Sister, I was like, these guys are just as good. They have that occult rock thing going on, and there's a little bit of a Sam Hain, Nick Cave thing going on too with the vocals. Play has a great voice, and it's got a very haunting melody to it. I love it. It's very powerful, and these songs are very infectious. Like every song has you really singing your heart out, and it's just like, wow, these are really catchy songs. I wouldn't say it's poppy, but it's really hooky. These guys should have been massively huge. Sister is not only my favorite album from the year 2013, but my absolute favorite album from the 2010s decade. Especially as far as the underrated albums go, there's a reason why this album's number one, because it should have been huge. This band should have broken out massive from this, because you had a lot of these bands coming out this time. These guys, once again, Ghost, The Devil's Blood. There was a lot of bands who were doing this whole thing going on. It was a really interesting thing going on. Uncle Acid as well. And it was like cool to see this whole thing going on where these bands had these really classic sounds and they were singing about cool, intense, darkly heavy stuff, kind of like what Black Sabbath did at the time, but without the doom-laden aspect that Black Sabbath focused on that a lot of doom bands would later rip off. In Solitude was catchy, they were hooky, they were dark, they were fast at times, and boy, did they have anthems for fucking weeks. So go fucking buy Sister. Buy it and then buy another copy for your friend. This was one of the best albums ever, and it saddened me. They fucking called it a day. I think it was like early 2015 when they did. If my memory is wrong, I apologize, but man, was it a tragedy, because I was so bummed. But I could say I at least saw them once on the 2013 tour that they were doing for this album. They were with Tribulation opening for Watain, and that was cool because it was all 3 bands from Sweden. It was all bands who I had never seen live previously, but In Solitude was really the biggest highlight for me that night. Yeah, guys, get back together. In Solitude, if you catch this video, Pelé, come on, man. You know you want to fucking do this. You know you want to come back. You guys were so young, too. So young. And then there was just that. It was a Thanos snap away. But that's it for me, guys. Those are my most underrated albums of the 2010s. And I know you're going to put in your list in the comments. I'm not going to ask you what your list is. You already going to do that for me. So meanwhile, you go check out my list if you somehow haven't. If you've already checked out these albums and you like them, well, fucking gravy. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. And you lay down your souls to the gods rock and roll.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.